Want to get creeped out? I'm a paranormal investigator and researcher, and this is one of the most paranormal and intriguing stories that I have ever encountered, the Three Kings Ritual. Let me just give you a quick rundown of what the Three Kings Ritual is, which I will say is a creepypasta or an internet urban legend. However, there have been stories of people truly trying this ritual and having really paranormal experiences. And this one is wild. Long story short of what this ritual is you set up 3 chairs in an empty room that either has no windows or you cover them up so it's going to be completely pitch black. The middle chair you leave empty because that's where you're going to sit. On the 2 chairs on either side, you place mirrors and they're facing each other, but they're just in your peripheral vision, like just so you can see them out of the corner of your eye. And essentially, you go into that room at a specific time with a candle and some other objects that you need for the ritual, and you sit there for an hour. The rule is you don't look at the mirrors directly, and you essentially are supposed to have some kind of paranormal experience. It's a real deep dive if you want to get into it. The main point is you sit in this middle chair, you have a power object with you that is near and dear to you, or you have some kind of emotional connection to, because that basically is supposed to help keep you anchored. A lot of people reportedly go into trances when they do this ritual, whether they want to or not. There's also different protections in place if you do go into some kind of trance to make sure that you're going to be able to come out of it. So the first thing is you have a loved one that does the ritual with you. You essentially do the ritual from 3:33 in the morning to 4:34 in the morning. So you're sitting in that chair for an hour waiting to see if anything's going to happen. At 4:34, your loved one is to, pop their head into that room and call your name. And if that doesn't work, you have your cell phone on you, which you will have on loud, and they will call the cell phone, hoping that that breaks you out of whatever trance you might be in. The third thing is a bucket of water in a mug that you place kind of just in front of you out of reach. And if you're not coming out of your trance or whatever is going on, your loved one is supposed to splash you with that water. And that actually is a lot of times how this ritual ends, is someone splashing the other person in the face. There's one more protection, and that is a fan that you're supposed to set up behind your middle chair, and you're supposed to have somewhere to place a candle just in front of you while you do the ritual. And this is pretty ominous and creepy sounding, but they say if your body is to be moved during the ritual, the fan will blow out the candle, and that will finish the ritual, that will end the ritual, so you should come to if that were to happen. The ritual instructions are very detailed. Like, you are supposed to set up the ritual at 11 p.m. and leave the door to this room open. You are supposed to go to bed right afterwards and set your alarm for 3:30 in the morning, and you're supposed to be in the middle chair, which is called your throne, by 3:33 in the morning. There's also a lot of warnings involving this game. For instance, because essentially you are inviting the paranormal in. The warnings go: if you have any weird dreams, don't perform the ritual. If your alarm clock for some reason doesn't go off, don't perform the ritual. If your cell phone didn't fully charge, don't do the ritual. If the door to the room where you're planning to do the ritual is now closed when you left it open, don't do the ritual. If you go into that room and the fan is unplugged or anything is different than how you left it, you get it, don't do the ritual. Now, whenever I talk about this ritual and paranormal stories revolving around this ritual, I get a lot of questions like, why would anyone ever want to do this? And there's typically 4 major reasons that people do this. The first one is that they are a skeptic and they're kind of wanting to prove that the paranormal isn't real, or they're wanting to prove that to someone. Sometimes they're just trying to prove it to themselves. The second reason is people who are avidly into the paranormal and want to have a paranormal experience. There's also a group of people who do this because they feel like it will be an enlightening experience and promote growth within themselves. And the fourth group of people are sometimes people who have a deceased loved one and they're hoping that this might be a means to contact them, though I highly do not suggest using this as a way to contact your loved ones. So to protect the storyteller's anonymity, we will name her Jenna. Jenna was the maid of honor for her best friend Sarah's wedding. For the bachelorette party, they rented a super old Victorian style Airbnb. Most of the girls who were attending this party were what some might call nerdy. They were into playing D&D, they were into fantasy, and they were very into horror. The bachelorette party was in October, and the whole theme was ghosts and witches and spookiness. It sounds like a party that I would love. The girls had a group chat, and someone sent in an article about the Three Kings ritual. They all decided that this ritual would be fun to do at the party. As maid of honor, Jenna volunteers to be the one who does the ritual, and essentially all of the girls at the bachelorette party are going to be her loved one who help her with this ritual. For an extra haunted vibe, the girls even bought antique mirrors from an antique shop to place in each chair that you aren't supposed to sit in. The Airbnb listing said that it had a basement, so they immediately decided that would be the best place to do it. And when they got there, they immediately went to go check out the basement. The basement was creepy from the start. There was a single chair facing a corner, which freaked the girls out, and the girls just felt like the place was giving off a bad vibe. The basement was a large stone basement. It had a storage room filled with dusty boxes and dusty books, but nothing too unusual. However, in the main rec room, there was a cistern. And for anyone who doesn't know what a cistern is, it's essentially a large water tank that was used back in the day. I've seen one before, and trust me, they are creepy. So Friday night, the girls decide to watch some horror movies, have snacks. It's a great first night. The next day, they decide this is the night that they're going to do the ritual. It's 11 p.m. They haul 3 large armchairs into the basement and place them in the correct positions. The middle one is supposed to face north, and that happens to be facing the cistern. They put the mirrors on either side of the middle chair to make sure the fan is plugged in behind the chair and on a low setting, and they set up the bucket of water and the mug. Everything is ready. They do close the door to the storage room, but when they go upstairs, they make sure they leave the door at the top of the stairs open as per the instructions. And it is warned that it is important to follow the instructions to a T. However, after setting up, the girls don't go to bed. They stay up celebrating. There was definitely some partying going on that night, but nothing too extreme. Nothing that would cause hallucinations or anything like that. As the hour grew later, Jenna started to feel nervous, but she wasn't really sure if it was anxiety or excitement or both. However, she didn't want to be, in her words, a party pooper, so she decided she was going to go through with this ritual no matter what and make everybody happy. At 3:32 in the morning, Jenna lit the candle with her lighter and headed down into the basement with the candle, her cell phone, and her power object, which was a teddy bear from her childhood. She was seated in the middle chair or the throne by 3:33 a.m. At this point, she was already getting in her head. She couldn't shake the feeling that the hour ahead was going to be intense. She was having anxiety. The fan was blowing on her, which was making her shiver, very cold and damp in that basement. She was also sleep deprived, and the basement was pitch black, but she wasn't going to give up. So she sat in the middle chair and just looked straight forward, making sure not to look at the mirrors. It was so dark that the cistern in front of her was barely even visible, and she just had this really eerie feeling. Jenna wasn't sure how long she sat there for, but she realized that there was a rhythmic dripping noise that she was hearing, assumably coming from the cistern. She couldn't tell if it had been there the whole time or if she had just noticed it. The sound heightened her anxiety, and she started to feel like she was at the precipice of a panic attack. She could see the mirrors on either side of her in her peripheral vision, and it started to look like there was something dripping down the mirrors, and that also really freaked her out. Suddenly, she hears something splash in front of her, again, assumably in the cistern. And at the same time, in her peripheral vision, it looks like something is moving in the mirrors, like some kind of creature or entity or something. That was her last straw. She was like, I'm not doing this. So she jumped up, but unfortunately, when she jumped up, she dropped the candle and the flame went out. And now it is really pitch black, so dark that you couldn't see your own hand in front of your face. She also realized in that moment that the lighter she used to light the candle was upstairs. Jenna said she felt more scared in that moment than she had ever felt in her entire life. To make matters even worse, Jenna realizes in this moment that she's not holding her teddy bear. She doesn't know if it also dropped when she jumped up or what happened. Then she remembers that her cell phone's in her pocket. So she grabs her cell phone to go use the flashlight. But her cell phone isn't on. She's trying to tell herself that this is just some weird coincidence and that this isn't the beginning of some horror movie. So she goes to turn on her phone, thinking maybe she just accidentally turned it off off somehow, but it won't turn on. Honestly, everything just happened so quickly, and it really started to feel like panic was taking over her body and she was about to lose control. She had a lump in her throat, her heart was pounding in her chest, her stomach was in knots. She was sweating at this point, and being in the pitch black for all of this just made it even worse. She decides that she's going to hold her hands out in front of her and try to make her way to the far wall where she could feel her way to the staircase. And she does. She gets to the wall and she gets to the staircase. Just as she's about to step onto the first stair, she hears another splash from the cistern. She has this overwhelming feeling that something is watching her or something is right behind her. So she runs up those stairs faster than she's ever ran. I know many of us have had that feeling before, and it's terrifying. So she reaches the top of the stairs, puts her hand on the doorknob, turns it, and it's locked. She's thinking to herself, is this some kind of sick joke that my friends are playing on me? She was just so upset and so terrified. She starts banging on that door and yelling, "Let me out, let me out." She stops for a second to see if she can hear her friends coming to her, but instead hears the creak of a door from down below. Her immediate thought went to the storage room because that was the only door down there. And she started thinking, is it one of my friends hiding down there, or is it something else? She starts banging on the door again, screaming again, but no one comes. At this point, she presses her ear against the door to listen to her friends and see what's going on. But all she hears is silence, complete silence. No footsteps, no laughter, no talking, nothing. She's standing there for what she thinks is a few minutes, wondering what is she supposed to do? How is she supposed to get out of this situation? What is this situation? And then she hears another noise. A door close from down below. She turns around, terrified, hoping to see anything, even though she knows it's pitch black, but she's hoping that maybe she'll see her friend at the bottom of the stairs. As she turns, though, she loses her footing and actually falls down the stairs and blacks out. The next thing she knows, she comes to and she's hearing Sarah say her name. Jenna, Jenna. The weird thing is, she described it like she was waking up, but her eyes were already open. And get this, she was not lying on the basement floor. She was sitting in the middle chair in her throne. Someone flipped the lights on, and all of the girls at the bachelorette party are standing around her and asking her if she's okay. But she said nothing. She just felt so rattled. And she has this feeling like she has to go to the storage room. She just feels a pull. So she gets up, turns around, and the storage room door is actually open now, which it wasn't before. So she heads towards the storage room. Some of the girls are trying to get her attention, but she's just walking straight forward. She flips on the light in there, and lying in a pool of water, absolutely soaked in the middle of the floor, is her power object, her teddy bear. Now, Jenna shared she's not sure why everything went wrong. Maybe it was because they didn't follow the instructions to a T. She didn't go to bed at 11 like she was supposed to. Maybe there was something wrong with them closing the storage room door. Maybe they were supposed to leave that open. They weren't really sure. But all of her friends promised her that they had not done anything to try and trick her, and they had not heard any banging on the door or anything like that. They had been upstairs the whole time playing games and just waiting for the hour to be over. Either way, though, like, there's things that would still need to be explained, even if her friends had been like, yeah, haha, we played a trick on you. I mean, she literally remembers falling down the stairs, but wakes up sitting up in a chair with her eyes open. And secondly, how did the bear get into the storage room? Like, that makes no sense. And why was it wet? Some have theorized that the bear was somehow protecting her from something and that she would have wound up in that cistern. Whatever the reason is, though, that this ritual went wrong, it honestly traumatized Jenna, and she couldn't sleep for months afterwards because she was so scared. Now, I think this is a good reminder that if you are not experienced in the occult, if you don't know what you're doing with that kind of thing, delving into doing rituals or, using Ouija boards, whatever it may be, might not be the best idea. Anything that might be inviting something in, think about it first and make sure that you are prepared to handle it if that does happen. If you like stories like this, if you like Three Kings Ritual stories, make sure you check out my Patreon because there's going to be stories like this going up on Patreon only at least 2 times a month. And on top of that, you can get some really cute The Queer Crypt merch. We're going to be doing story times. We're going to be researching the paranormal and cryptids together, and it's just going to be a lot of fun. Anyways, that's it for this one. Stay haunted.